Hello, everybody. Today I want to talk about 33 British objects that, in my opinion, prove that American luxury is a complete farce. When you move to Britain as an American, some things feel very familiar because, yes, we are cousins and American culture does translate overseas. But then there's some other things that hit quite differently. Things that you never really realized were exceptional or iconic until you actually live it and experience it. Number one, the pub. I mean, it's a very, very special social institution that there's a unique culture around here in Great Britain. And it's basically your third space. It's where you can create community and camaraderie and really connect with people, whether it's quiz nights, whether it's a Sunday roast, or whether it's just over a pint or a football game. It's something that's very, very special about the UK. It is an icon and it's something that should be protected that you would never be able to experience in the US culture. Second, we have afternoon tea. I mean, you have finger sandwiches, scones, clotted cream, and a pause in the day. Not everybody stops in the middle of the afternoon to have afternoon tea, but if you do get that break, even if it's just for a minute to go fill your cup up, it's definitely worth it. Fish and chip shops, or as we call them as locals, chippies. Very crispy, comforting, nostalgic, vinegar-scented joy in a box. You can't beat it. Red telephone boxes and post boxes. Now, it is true that the red telephone boxes, most of them are not actually telephone boxes anymore. They're things like libraries, they have defibrillators, sometimes they're charging stations, but they are still prominent, and especially in the cities. And you can find them almost at least in one in every village. They're functional in their modern sense, and they're historic and also very photogenic and something that you can't walk down the street without thinking you're going to see if you're into British culture. Next, we have the underground or the tube, specific to London, obviously, but in my opinion, compared to New York City subway stations and even the Pennsylvania subway SEPTA line, much more efficient. Obviously, very iconic, claustrophobic a little bit, and you have to make sure you mind the gap. Pun intended. Next, we have the royal family. Whether you like it or not, it's definitely something that's iconic about British culture, something Americans are drawn to. I don't always understand why. I mean, I had a special draw to it, but I had a British partner and I wanted to make sure my child knew their British heritage. So we always paid attention. But it is actually really fun to witness some of these things like the coronation, the weddings, trooping the color every year, just seeing these ongoing cultural touchstones that have been around for decades, if not longer. It's just, there's something kind of comforting about knowing that that's probably not going to change anytime soon. Next, you have the pub, but not just the pub as a whole, the really creative and unique names that come with the pub. Some of them aren't always unique. Like, I think there's probably like 30 King George pubs or something like that. But then you have things like the Dog and Duck or the Slug and Lettuce. Basically, history and that story about that specific pub in a name. You can't beat it. Next, you have the double-decker buses, another British icon. Of course, you see it in all of the movies and all that kind of stuff. But you do get scenic rides. They are somewhat practical, especially if you're a tourist and you don't really know where you're going. And again, that British red, really photogenic. Next is castles and stately homes. Things I absolutely love. It's definitely my weakness. It doesn't matter if you're in Windsor, if you're in Cardiff, if you're in Leeds. Well, I actually don't know if they have a castle in Leeds, but there's a Leeds castle, but it's actually in Kent. Very, very confusing. But anyway, there's historic countryside gems everywhere. So you're just walking through history, and the coolest thing about it is you can just be driving around the train and see it in the distance. It's really, really amazing to be able to experience in person. And then we have the NHS. Perfectly imperfect, definitely needs assistance, somewhat bureaucratic, and some people do have not so great stories to tell about it. But ultimately, it is a shared social goal for the betterment of the community and the good of the people. So I'm always behind that. British comedy icons that will never not be funny. Things like Monty Python, you have John Cleese in Fawlty Towers. I mean, my personal favorite. Not my personal favorite is Only Fools and Horses, but a lot of people seem to like it. Blackadder, again, something I'm kind of mixed on. Some of them I like, some of them I don't. People like Ricky Gervais and a bunch of other comedians that are extremely sarcastic and have very dry sense of humor, something that the British are well known for and something that I absolutely adore. Next, we have national parks and countrysides. places like the Lake District, the Peak District, the Scottish Highlands. I mean, even your local park. There's basically nature everywhere in the UK. It's something I didn't really expect to be so abundant given the age of the country, given all of the, the length of time that you have been around, and the fact that you're an island. I just didn't realize that it would be like an actual intentional effort to keep those green spaces going, because in the US it's very, very rare if it happens at all. Next, you have weather talk. Okay, so this is like one of those British habits I've kind of picked up on, but I get why. It's a small talk obsession, not because they can't figure out anything else, but more because it's neutral. It's a nice icebreaker. It's something everybody can identify with, but something you don't actually have to commit to. Basically, bonding over drizzle, which it does most of the time here in the UK. If you're lucky, it's just drizzle. Next, you have the football culture. A lot of the sports here in the UK have their own culture associated with them, and it is tribal and passionate and unique, each in their own way. But football culture kind of permeates through most of the cities and communities. And because they have a history, they have a tie to the town for working class people primarily for decades upon decades. And it's you've passed down through generation. It's very, very unique and something that we don't have in the US at all. Historic markets, like being able to go to Borough, Camden. So you have all of the Christmas markets that happen in the winter, and you have all the food fair markets that happen in the summer and spring. I mean, you're shopping as an experience, but the fun thing is they're not like expecting you to buy tons and tons of stuff. It's not like a consumeristic underlie. It's just, again, something that has been passed down through the culture through all of these years. And it's really, really interesting and fun and different to be a part of. Let's go bookshops. This I have personally, I don't really care so much about, but my child is kind of a bookworm. So we always visit the bookshops when we find them. And there is something a little bit nostalgic and quite British about it, in my opinion. They're quite cozy. Most of them are independent. They always have a cafe, and you are encouraged almost to just linger and even sit there and read sometimes. And although it might not appeal to me specifically on a regular basis, I do kind of like that that's always an option out there. British trains. Now, I'm sure that a lot of people that are in different parts of the world are going to tell me that this is, better in other areas, but I only have the United States and the UK to compare to. So that's where this is coming from. But British trains, there's often a lot of scenery. You see the countryside and all kinds of wonderful rolling hills and all of that. They're very rhythmic and they're part of everyday life. And you just get to kind of, I don't know, I always feel like I'm in the UK when I'm sitting on the train. It's a really strange kind of unique feeling. I don't know if it's unique to me personally, but I absolutely love it. It could be that it's the fact that I like traveling and that I know I'm going somewhere. But either way, I love it regardless. The money with the icons. Now, we, of course, in the United States have icons and former presidents and founding fathers on our money and important figures in our history. But I don't know, it's something a little bit different about the history that is personified on the British notes, on the British bills. It's not just like your monarch, it's really important, influential people, including like Churchill, Newton, Shakespeare, as well as the king and the late queen. I don't know, it just feels kind of like a subtle history lesson with every time I use cash. Okay, British breakfast. Now, I have to admit, and don't hate, I'm not a huge fan of British breakfast. I don't really like bacon buddies, mainly because I don't like butter. Not a fan of black pudding. And the full English, I usually only eat half the plate, but they are iconic. And I do kind of get a kick out of seeing someone else eat them and order them when we go out. So I had to put it on the list. And then, of course, I had to add this one to the list as well. Anyone who's been on my channel for longer than like a day knows that I am very, very supportive of veterans. We actually have a partnership with the Royal British Legion. The poppy tradition and how you do your remembrance and take care of your veterans. It's very quiet, but it is collective. It's got that British understatement going, but also that it is a community-driven cause. Whether it's the RBL or any other association that supports veterans, it doesn't feel like an obligation. It doesn't feel like a rah-rah patriotic ceremony that you must participate in. It feels like something that is truly tribal and a real tribute at the same time, which I don't know that we really have in the US. And sometimes it's the small gestures, like just having a poppy on your lapel, that has a huge meaning and shows some solidarity and support in ways that I just don't think that we have in the US. I think it's been quite polarized in the US, even just wearing an American flag pin on your lapel at this point. So it means a lot to me to be able to see that throughout the community, and that it's just done without any expectation and without any big hoopla surrounding it. So you also can't do this list without looking at the iconic architecture. Okay, you have Gothic cathedrals, you have Georgian terrace houses, you have Victorian streets, you have palaces, you have paintings and heirlooms that have been around for centuries. I mean, you cut that last part out because this is about architecture. You basically can't walk down a street in the UK without seeing some kind of iconic architecture in front of you. Tea culture, obviously, not just because people drink a lot of tea here, but people do also drink a lot of coffee here and stuff. And the tea culture is prevalent. It's how you make it, it's what you put in it. You have builder's tea, which is, I think, 2 sugars and milk. It's kind of how I take it when I do have black tea. You have your favorite mug, but you always have an abundance of like 10 or 12 extra mugs. You have a daily morning routine, an afternoon tea routine, an evening routine, whether you put the milk in first or the bag in first or whatever. There's always a specific way to do it. The whole thing that tea culture represents here about just taking a moment, pausing, and breathing in order to, figure out your next step, you can't beat that. You also have a lot of local ceremonies and festivals that happen throughout the year. Some of them are a little bit crazy, like the cheese rolling, and this one that I just recently found out about, where they do this like infidelity or fidelity test or something like that. I don't know. But you also have the May Day dances that have been around forever. You have like Guy Fawkes Night. You have a lot of traditions that have been around for centuries. Abhalia in Scotland. I mean, you just have these really, really fun, amazing things that happen on a regular basis. There's always something to do and something to see and something to learn about. You have ancient variety as well. I mean, you have Yorkshire, and then you can't make a list like this and not acknowledge the variety of accents. I mean, Yorkshire, Scouse, London, Geordie, Cornish, Cockney, posh, whatever. There's subtle regional identity just from having a conversation with someone, even when it's as mundane or benign as the weather. Queuing culture, of course, because patience is a civic ritual. Historic universities like Oxford, Cambridge, and St. Andrews, these century-old historical hubs that will hopefully be around for many, many more years to come. British music icons, right? Beatles, Rolling Stones, Adele, Ed Sheeran, Ren. You basically have an everyday soundtrack at your fingertips. It's incredible. Of course, you have the British humor, dry wit, sarcasm, headlines and conversations that are made better by a little bit of banter and make you feel a little less like the world is ending every time you look at the news. You have this Sunday roast tradition, which I highly recommend if you haven't had it before. It's basically meat, veg, Yorkshire pudding, lots of gravy, and then a nice little dessert afterwards, a nice little pudding. Basically your cultural heartbeat and reset every Sunday afternoon. And lastly, we have the final 3. We have corner shops and news agents, local hubs, again, a third space, personal, curated, unique to each area, and a little bit magical. You have pantomime and seasonal theater, which are so fun, interactive, a little bit silly, but very deeply communal and something that you definitely cannot pass on. And finally, we have village greens and crickets. Village greens, local football pitches, and cricket fields. Quintessential rural icons. If you are anywhere, even in the middle of London, you have them everywhere. It's not that we don't have them in the US, it's just that there's such an abundance of them here in the UK, and they're all for different things. Like, you don't use the same field for more than one thing in most places. And it also just kind of reminds you that you have the opportunity to just slow down, enjoy the day, connect with other people in the absolute best and most British ways possible. For me, living abroad has made me notice things that I never appreciated at home or things I never even knew I really wanted until I realized, oh my God, we don't even have that in America. Britain isn't just a place, it is a collection of icons, history, rituals, quirks, humor, and habits that quietly shape your life. Some of them may seem absurd to an outside. Some of them might seem completely absurd to an outsider, but some are extremely comforting, and all of them combined to me basically tell the British story.